Legends in this episode of Rucking Good. I hang out with Cam Falloon. Cam is a personal trainer, a strength and conditioning coach, and an amazing entrepreneur who created the global gym franchise BFT. We discuss his unconventional path from being a chippy apprentice to heading over to the UK to train who's arguably the most public figure ever in Princess Diana, to returning back to Australia to be a performance coach for the AFL. He's got an amazing story, truly inspirational. I hope you enjoy. I'm here with Cam Falloon, and in typical Melbourne fashion, I think it was sunny when I left my hotel room and it's now raining. So Melbourne's brought out its best, and we're back at the tan. So I was here yesterday doing a little bit, so that's already... Look, it'll be sunny in 2 minutes. Yeah, so beautiful place to spend some time walking around and having a chat.
It is. It's just typical Melbourne though. It was cloudy, sunny, and now rain. So hopefully it passes pretty quick.
I think it's has it passed already, or are we just well sheltered?
Well sheltered. Yeah, it's still coming down over there.
It'll
pass. Give us a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So. How did we meet? We met through maybe High Rocks?
No, Deep Liquid.
Oh, Deep Liquid, that's right. Our excellent investment in an AI company. Yeah, we're both minor shareholders in a...
Very minor.
Very minor, but very big advisors into a company that does AI around taste and beverages and stuff like that. So that's how we met, actually. That's cool. But I'd been in touch with G.
Yes.
So I think before I met you, I met G through High Rocks, and we ran the PFT as part of Search for Hertz qualies, online qualies. So we were getting people to go into BFTs and do the PFT to get a score together and stick it in. And so we've been doing a little bit with BFT before I even met you, which was cool. But yeah, our investment kind of got us talking about other stuff and led us to here, where we're going to have a chat about all things Cam Falloon and past, present and future.
Looking forward to it.
I know, it'd be cool.
Looking forward to it.
Let's go back. So everyone, like I know you and I know your story, but not everybody that listens to this is gonna know who Cam Falloon is, but I'm sure they'll know some of the people that you've worked with and clubs that you've worked with, and obviously they'll know BFT. Give us a little, I don't know, couple minute snapshot of what led you to, like, everything leading up to the BFT?
Yeah, well, left school early, didn't complete year 12, did a carpentry apprenticeship.
Nice.
Knew pretty early on that was not for me, but was a bit too stubborn to quit and go back to school.
Did you finish your trade?
Yeah, I did my apprenticeship, but I ended up having a pretty bad back injury, and which is then obviously what led me into this industry. So I ended up going back and doing my year 12 as a mature age. I then got into PTing and lived in London for 3 years. Didn't intend to, but sort of fell into personal training. I'd done my basic quals just to learn about my body and try and work out how to rehabilitate myself.
So getting into that side of, like, because you lead into becoming a strength and conditioning coach, but it was to try to treat your own injury that you kind of led down that path?
Yeah, we're talking about 1991.
Yep.
And, you know, exercise rehabilitation wasn't back then what it is today, and I go to lots of different therapists and professionals, and some would say do flexion, some would do extension, some would say rest. And I was in a lot of pain. I was told by a rheumatologist, get yourself a desk job, you'll never be physically active again, and that was a bitter pill to swallow. So that led me to study. What I knew was, when you're sort of 17, 18, you think you're bulletproof.
Yes.
I found out pretty quickly I wasn't. And as a result, I realised, shit, I don't actually know. Whilst I was young and strong and active, I just didn't actually formally do any strength training or conditioning. It was all just through playing sport or surfing or swimming or whatever.
That's where you were getting your...
That's where I was getting my strength from.
Yeah.
And so that for me was an eye-opener, and yeah, so I started PTing in London, which again I fell into it.
Yeah. So how did you? So you've now jumped from Australia to go to London. Like, what was the catalyst to getting you over there?
Yeah, when I had the injury, to be honest, I probably just had some mental demons and was getting into a bit of trouble, not really going anywhere with my life because I was just fairly disillusioned. And to Mum and Dad's credit, they could see that, and I'd done some studying at my 21st. Mum and Dad said, look, you can have a big party and we can spend all the money on that, or here's a ticket to go around the world. And I said, you know what, I think this is the circuit breaker I need. And
nice.
I had no plans, it was just let's go travelling, and I signed up to do Camp America. Went and did summer camp, went to the UK, thought I'd do the typical Aussie, work in a pub for 3 months, travel to Europe and then come home, and I absolutely loved it over there. And
did you have any formal PT?
Yeah, I'd done my PT certs.
Okay.
Which is very, similar to today, but back then it was like a minimum 12-month qualification, whereas these days it's, you can do it in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And when you're in the States, did you do anything in that realm, or?
No, I was just summer camp, and I was coaching volleyball and did a little bit of stuff in the gym with the strength guys. There was a gym at the summer camp, but I was there mainly coaching volleyball.
Yep.
So yeah, I fell into it in the UK, and then that just sort of, lit the fire and opened my eyes up to, more than anything, that there's a big wide world out there. And that really, from an entrepreneurial perspective, really got me thinking about opportunities and broadened my horizons outside of my very limited view of where I grew up in Mulgrave, and maybe my eyes could only really see maybe even Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I got to see a big wide world, and I really got embraced by some good people in the UK. And I think the thing for me was they recognise the hard work, and they recognise probably just a good person, honest, and the value side of thing. And I thought, well, regardless of skill sets, regardless of university degrees or qualifications, I got lots of opportunities afforded to me in London because of hard work and values.
Yep.
And so that really sort of set me up, I think, and gave me just a different view. I think there's an expectation that go to uni or get a trade or do this, and it's horses for courses. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, and I've got degrees and I've done a trade, but it's also not the be all end all.
Yep.
At the end of the day, whether you're an entrepreneur or you want to have success in life, at some stage you've got to make sacrifices, you've got to work hard, but hopefully you've got the right values and you treat people the right way, and that's certainly...
And I think that's an underestimated part of being an entrepreneur or a businessman. And it's probably, if you go back to what most people's impressions are of the typical businessman or the stereotypical businessman, it's like that Wall Street, kill or be killed. But I think, most of the successful entrepreneurs that I meet, they've got that, like almost a personality where they can connect with people really well, and they're genuine. They're not just assessing deals in their head while they're talking. They're connecting on a human level before they think about business, and I think that's puts them in good stead for long-term relationship and long-term growth.
Yeah, well, life's about building relationships and trust, and I think for me, I guess we'll get to sport later, but whether you play local sport or professional, relationships and trust and having an alignment on values and a situation where everyone wins, everyone plays their role, and if everyone can win, I think as an entrepreneur, that's really valuable as the sun shines in Melbourne, by the way.
I know, right? I'm just catching that glimpse. No, I got a heap of this beautiful city in the sunshine yesterday.
And I think that's really important. It's really, really important that successful organisations, whether it's in business or sport or other, typically are successful because everyone's winning.
Yeah.
It's not about individuals or one person. There's always a hierarchy, and that's normal and it's typical, and that's somewhat needed because you do need leaders and different personalities and types to drive businesses. But ultimately, in the sports realm, it's, you got to play your role.
Yeah.
And if everyone does that, part of that is being, you know, making sacrifices, accepting things that maybe you don't want to accept. But if you do it and do it well and you do it collectively, then everyone wins and everyone has success. And
it's
that's what I saw early in London, really, to be honest.
Yeah, and so you end up in London. Do you do the typical bar?
Did,
Aussie
yeah,
work in a bar?
worked in bars and had an absolutely awesome time doing that. It was a really great area of London in the West End, opposite the London Palladium. So, you know, got to meet all the actors and actresses, and we were all on similar time schedules. They were doing theatre at night, we're behind the bar at night.
Coming in after,
So we used to go out and party with them a lot, and lived on the same sort of time cycle. So I was really fortunate, got to meet great people, really landed on my feet. Right place, right time. It was an awesome place to be in the mid-90s. We're talking about 95, 96, 97 in London. It was just a really, really awesome time, and I think where I am today is largely attributed to
that era,
that era and that time that I got to spend there.
Yeah, and so you end up moving into a gym and doing some PT. Was that through the connections in the bar?
Nah, not at all. I was training at a gym in the West End of London. I had someone come up to me and thought that I was actually just training, working out. Someone looked at me and must have thought I looked like I was a trainer and said, hey, can I get some advice? And I said, well, actually, I don't work here, but I'm happy to help you out.
And at this point, you did have your quals?
I had my quals, had no intention at all. I was literally due to go on a surf trip to South Africa. I was flying home for 9 days. I was going to see mum and dad, and then part of that was see them and then go back to the UK and do a bit more travel. And I had no real direction. It was just, I'm having such a good time, get it out of my system. I'm in no rush. I don't need to put a time frame on the travel. When I'm done, I'm done.
Yep.
But that interaction with that particular person around the PTing, what it led to was me saying, I sort of took the opportunity. I said, tell you what, how about I write you some programs? And they said, yeah, I'd love that. And so I'll tell you what, why don't we meet tomorrow? We'll have a discuss about your needs and we'll talk some pricing, etc. And I just got on the phones that afternoon and started calling all these gyms and inquiring about personal training.
And how much they charge. And
and I was working for £3, 5 pence an hour, which was about $10 an hour, let's call it.
Yeah, wow.
And PTs were charging 25, 30 pounds an hour.
Oh, nice.
So, which is about $100 an hour. So, that opened my eyes up and went, wow, you know, if I hadn't have taken, I guess, the initiative to say, let's meet tomorrow, I'm prepared to help you out.
Because it would have been easy just to go, oh, no, man, I'm just here working
I was on
out.
a plane in like a week's time. So that really opened my eyes up. So I went back the next day and met him and just said, hey, you know, I charge £30 an hour. I charge £25 an hour or whatever it was to write the programs. I'll take X amount of hours to write your programs and then X amount of hours to take you through them and get you comfortable.
Yeah.
And he didn't balk at the price. So I was like, wow, okay. This is really interesting. And so that I flew home, saw mum and dad for 9 days after my surf trip, and I rang one of the lecturers I had when I did my PT course and just said, look, I don't know anything about PTing in terms of running the business side of it. What are the things that I don't know? I know the physical side.
Yeah.
Albeit at a very basic level, given I was just getting started. And he was awesome. Gave me some good advice. Basically, gave me two business books to read, which I read on the plane.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to have a crack at this. I'm going to just set up a freelancing business and see how I go.
And so you get back from your trip. Your guy's ready to go. You got him a program. Start working with him, and then.
No, I didn't start working with him. He was on his way. I got back. I got my CV together. I went and trained and looked at about 20 different gyms in London.
Yep.
And whittled that down to about 8 or 10 that I really felt comfortable that this is a place where I would like to train.
Yep.
Handed my CVs in there. And then,
so you never end up training that guy?
No, just before I left, I gave him the programs. I took him through the programs.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
right.
So
yes,
yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
So yeah, I just went and vetted some gyms, worked out the ones that I would like to train at.
Yep.
because I thought, well, no use being in an environment that I don't want to be at. You know, you hear a lot of PTs these days, they go and work somewhere as a trainer,
yeah,
but then they go and train somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so for me, I want to really love where I'm working.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would you recommend it to someone else? BFT is sort of a place where trainers they love BFT because they like to train there as well.
Yeah.
Which we love about the model, and it's a sort of a bit of a USP for us. But yeah, I got offered an opportunity to work at Earl's Court Gym, and that's where I started my journey.
Nice. So, yeah. And from a promotional standpoint, was it something? Could you actively chase clients to come into the gym, or were you just kind of sitting at the gym, introducing yourself to existing clients, hoping that you could get a gig with existing? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, probably the latter. The deal was I did 3 shifts during the week, during peak hours, just to service members as a gym instructor.
Yep.
That paid my rent.
Yeah, right.
And then it was up to me to build the business, and I just spent as many hours in a day as I possibly could at the gym. And
yeah, and it was was there an EDM or an email? It was probably before the time.
There was no email, mate. Google wasn't invented back then.
Yeah, right. So it was just personal introductions. Hey, I'm Cam.
Yeah, we didn't have mobile phones. I think I had a pager.
Yeah, wow.
Like literally,
that's the OG.
Gmail wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
So I was just hanging around the gym. I'd offer to do sales. I'd offer to clean. I thought the only way I'm going to get busy is by being in front of people and building relationships and trust. And the only way I can do that is if I'm around and I'm present.
Yeah. And so how long did you just stick to that one gym, or did you have?
I stayed at that gym, and probably took me, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, and I had a pretty full book. When I say a full book, I would have had 40 clients a week.
Yeah.
Some of those were.
And is that like an hour session a week?
1 hour. Some were multiple times a week.
Yeah, right.
I was probably doing.
So you're spending a fair bit of time in the gym.
Yeah, I was doing 50 to 60 PT hours a week.
But earning good coin, earning more money than you were pouring beers.
Yeah, well, like I said, back then that was the equivalent to about $110 an hour. So
yeah, nice.
You know, and I was loving it. I was learning so much at an amazing clientele base.
Yeah. It is an expensive place to live, though.
It is an expensive place to live, but when you're working 7 days a week, you're not spending much money.
Nah, that's it. It's forced savings when you're busy.
As we walk past the sporting capital of the world, mate.
Yeah, I love it. I love
National Tennis Centre.
If nothing else with Melbourne, I love how they do these sporting precincts.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, it's gorgeous. So the bubble that you can see at the back, that's Amy Park. So that's NRL and soccer. And then
in front of that's the Collingwood training facilities.
Oh, right, yeah.
Football club, one of the biggest clubs in the land.
Yep.
Across the road is the National Tennis Centre.
That's Rod Laver. Is that Rod Laver?
Yeah, Rod Laver. Yep. And down the road's the basketball arena.
Yep.
And then.
And how far is the MCG from here?
They're the big light towers you can see just on the other side. So you can walk over a footbridge from the tennis centre.
So it's all walking distance to
everything.
Yeah, right.
I've had a day here where I've been to the Grand Prix at Albert Park.
Yep.
Come and watch Melbourne Storm. And then walked across the road and watched the pre-season game of the Richmond Tigers at the MCG. It's a pretty good day.
I know, right? So good. Something Melbourne does really, really well.
Yeah.
So you're now a really busy PT in a gym in London, and you managed to snag a client that's probably at the time the most recognised person in the world.
Yep.
Explain to me a little bit about how you get Princess Diana as a client.
Being really honest, right place, right time. As I said, I was at the gym all day, every day. I was unaware that she trained there. There's another gym called Holmes Place, which any photos you ever saw of Diana were taken in at that gym. So that was sort of her public place where everyone thought she went and trained, and she probably did do some training there.
But it was a Fugazi.
And she would train at the Earl's Court Gym before the early hours of the morning, before the doors are open to the public. Which
I was going to say that. So she wasn't there when everybody was there.
No.
Yeah, right.
And I had no awareness. And about 6 months into my journey, the owner of the gym, Ian, came up and said, "Look, don't know this, but Princess Diana trains here, and she comes in the gym with her trainer, who she'd had for a long time, and but she'd like to have some other people in the gym, you know, rather than just be her and her trainer on their own in a gym.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so
Originally it wasn't to train her, it was just to be training you at the same time that she was training.
Correct, yeah. So
right.
I'd go in there 2 to 3 times a week, and it'd just be Di and her trainer and myself and one of my clients.
Yep.
And then not long after that,
Geez, how good was that client that you brought in for that session? Like,
yeah, well, there was some. Everyone got vetted. Obviously, they were pretty high-profile business people,
sure.
and
yeah.
You know,
but what a spin out getting to train at the same time as Princess Di.
Yeah, they loved it, and
charge them extra for that session.
No, just value add all the time.
Value add.
But and then she parted ways not long after we started that process, and she just went to Ian, the owner of the gym, and said, "Can you help me? Can you put a list of the top 5 trainers in London?" And I happened to be on the list, and she said,
and then she knew, but you had
I know Cam, we've got a relationship.
Yeah, right.
So it's sort of been a right place, right time, to be really honest.
Yeah.
I won't take credit for my skill set or anything at that stage.
Nah, but man, you put yourself, it's like that preparation.
Meets opportunity.
Yeah, you got to put yourself in the right position to get those things. But so you trained with her for, how long were you training with her for? Or training her for?
Yeah, so we did, that was, what was that, 96, so we trained in the gym in terms of her and her trainer and me.
Yep.
My clients for probably, I don't even know, 4 or 5 months.
Yep.
Then pre-Christmas 96 we started training.
Yep.
I actually went away for a month, had a month's holidays. I had a partner and her family had come from overseas, and we'd done a bit of travelling to Europe.
Yep.
And we'd started late November, December, and was coming back somewhere in Jan. Got her another trainer, a guy named Jason Steele, who's a really good fella. He's from Switzerland.
I'm gonna switch the angle up a bit. How's this? Cam's wearing a ruck vest discreetly. Goes to show that you can wear the vest without anyone knowing that you're secret training.
So I came back. We organised Jason to do some training over summer, and over there it's winter, I should say.
Yep.
And then when I got back, actually what happened was she sort of said, "Look, I've been in this really good routine for a month. You know, I probably want to stay training with Jason," which I was a bit like, hang on. I went, okay, I'm not too fussed about that stuff, no worries. And then, funnily enough, for the next sort of 6 months, Jason and I would sort of wax and wane a little bit, training her. So if he was away, I'd take her on.
So you just kind of
depending on schedules, and we just tap in and out. But he did all the heavy lifting, and I just came in and did the fun stuff. So
yeah, nice.
And then I left around August '97.
Yeah, right. To come back home.
Yeah, do a bit of travel,
yep.
and then come back home. So I'd planned to do a trip through Europe, fly back out of London to Africa, then home, and we were going to catch up. I went to Malta to do some work. I got a contract over there to do some stuff in some gyms. And the day I arrived was the day she passed away, and I literally walked into the hotel room, and I'd given her and the owner of the gym, Ian, my itinerary, because as I said, we're organising to come back to London and have one last kind of get together.
Yeah.
I literally walked into my hotel room, and the phone rang, and it was Ian, and he said, "Have you heard the news?" And I literally walked in and hadn't heard. And as I was talking to him, I just grabbed the remote, turned on the TV, and
it was splashed everywhere.
Boom, it was everywhere. Yeah, so it was a bit surreal. Shame. Yeah, very surreal.
So, as we walk past the sporting capital of Melbourne, you come back from London.
Yep.
After a bit of travel. How do you transition from PT into S&C?
Yeah, I think London lit the fire, as I said, and opened my eyes up. I think I knew that PTing wasn't going to be my future forever. Yeah. But I wanted to be in the industry, and so I came back and studied.
So that involved more study?
Yeah, I came back, studied, and while I was studying, I ran a PT business. So out of a gym in Chapel Street, I employed trainers, had 3 or 4 trainers working for me. I did all the marketing, sales, and I was still doing some training at the time, but I was studying full time. got some opportunities with some soccer academies, did that, loved it. The A-League, or not the A-League, the old NSL had just folded.
Yeah, right.
There was like a hiatus year. So I was working with the top level state league, because there was no national league at the time, and we had a couple of really good successful years.
Was that down here in Melbourne?
Down here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And that just became more and more exciting for me in terms of being able to apply my knowledge and being challenged every day. Just that role, the S&C role, and I guess at that state level, back then you're having to go and get consultant medical people because you don't have medical people in-house.
Yes, yeah.
You're doing the rehab, you're doing the conditioning, you're doing recovery, you're designing training with coaches. Like, it was a really awesome grounding.
Yep.
And I loved it. I loved the challenge of it. I was just learning so much. And it just kept fueling the fire, and I was like, I'm studying and I'm applying and I'm studying and I'm applying and I'm learning so much.
And did you enjoy like working with a different subset of human? Like when you're PTing, you might have had some fit clients, and I'm probably just generalizing that they weren't, but like you come back and you cross over to S&C and you're working with effectively the 1%ers, not the 99%ers. Like, did you, from a professional standpoint, is that something that you enjoyed? Like pushing that limit of human potential because you already had someone that was already quite up there?
I definitely did, and it's funny, I kind of go full circle on it, which we'll get to as we talk, but I loved it. I loved being able to really dial into the individual, and in a team sport, they're all different individually, physiologically, but then psychologically they're all different. I love that side of it too.
Yeah.
I love learning about how much that psychology plays into the physical. And again, it just fueled me. I just was like, man, this is so exciting, and again, that fueled me to keep learning and studying, and which ended up with me doing my masters in S&C and then getting into AFL footy, and soccer was awesome, and to be honest, I always wanted to be in soccer. And
was that your sport growing up?
Aussie rules. But
right.
I just, again, going back to London, you get your eyes open to these
Premier League is
global
like,
sports, and
everyone's a god over there that plays in the Premier League.
And it's
Shout out to Timmy Cahill.
It's just the best of the people in the world. It's not, and I'm not putting Aussie rules footy down because they're elite athletes, and it's probably the toughest game in the world to play, just because of the hybrid nature of it.
Yeah.
But when you look at the best of the best in those top leagues in Europe in soccer, they're just
there's nothing like
freakishly good athletes, freakishly good skills. They're literally players that are coming from all over the world to be selected for that one league. Or a couple of those leagues. Whereas again, AFL players are elite athletes, but there's 700 or 800 of them playing in one league
in one country.
It's just different, and it's just a different level.
And so how were you, did you kind of get headhunted from the soccer stuff that you were doing into AFL?
No.
Or did you apply for a job?
Spoke to some people, and they sort of said there was a guy, Loris Bertolacci, who was at Geelong at the time. He was the first full-time S&C in the AFL back in the 90s.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Everyone was pretty consistent. Everyone was saying that's the guy you want to work for. And I don't know, I think for maybe 3 years I knocked on the door.
Yeah, right. And he was where?
Geelong Football Club. And stars aligned. I'd come out of a couple of really good years of learning and having some good results in soccer, and an opportunity happened to line up at Geelong, and Loris was good enough to give me the opportunity, to be honest. And I think probably because I'd been banging on the door for 3 years.
And at the time, was Geelong, was that during their powerhouse years?
Just prior. So Loris and Mark Thompson had done a really good job, along with obviously the list managers and others, but really building that team from 2001.
Yeah, because they went through a stretch where they were just like the team, right?
Yeah, so coming into 2005, they were really good. Just missed out in the finals. Everyone will remember those that followed the Nick Davis goal in the final up in Sydney. And then as a result, we had a lot of injuries at the end of that year, a lot of surgeries. 2006 was a challenge. Unfortunately, Loris got sacked for whatever reason. I won't go into that. And then, I ended up the following season going to the Bulldogs. I got offered to stay at Geelong.
Which is Western Bulldogs, yeah?
Western Bulldogs,
Yep.
yeah. My wife was working in Melbourne. I actually wanted to stay at Geelong. I got offered
Were you living down at Geelong when you were...
No, living in Melbourne.
so commuting. Is that far? Geelong, like an hour or so?
About an hour door to door. And just I, for whatever reason, I won't go into it, but I made the decision to go to the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Mainly, to be honest, the list was built at Geelong, and I just felt that they were about to be on the precipice of success, and I think that's one thing, but then the other side for me was it wasn't my work. Loris and others had done a lot of work from 2001 leading into that. I'd been there for a short period of time, and
then, so the Western Bulldogs gave you the opportunity to kind of build your own program out
young
with them?
list, sort of underdeveloped bodies, and were able to get in there and do some really good work that saw them, have 16 finals for
what years were you at Western Bulldogs?
2007, 2008. So we played in a prelim in 08, funnily enough, against Geelong. Just got pipped, and Geelong ended up being beaten in that final against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
And then both Geelong and the Bulldogs for the next few years had pretty good sustained success through finals.
Yeah, right. Because we did a training session with the original Search for Hurt with the Bulldogs, but I think that would have been 2011 or 2012, probably 2011, I think. So you weren't there then?
No, I was at Port Adelaide.
No, yeah, right. So you from where you spent 2 seasons at Bulldogs?
Yeah, and then got headhunted to go to Port.
Yep.
And I'd always talked about only being in the AFL for 10 years, only because it's tough on family, it's tough personally. There's a really high incidence of depression amongst people who stay in over 10 years. There's a high rate of divorce.
Oh, wow. I guess it's a mix of pressure, it's a mix of your weekends are gone, so that the time where you normally have family time.
It's a 24/7 job,
right.
And holidays are 24/7 as well, and so I loved it, but I was informed enough to go, okay, well, I reckon there's a 10-year window, and I'll probably get one opportunity to maybe take a young family and go and live somewhere else. So we took the opportunity to go to Port Adelaide, a great club.
And relocated?
Relocated for 4 years.
Yep.
And they were going through a big rebuild phase apart from the 2 new franchises with the Gold Coast and the GWS, I think were the youngest team in the competition.
Yep.
So it was an awesome opportunity, and a lot of challenges with that. Very proud club and successful, but yeah, we had a great time, but when my time was up there, I knew that was it. I made a decision to...
Was that getting towards your 10 years?
Yeah, I just said that's it. My wife she'd sacrificed a lot for me and given up her corporate career, and
yep.
She was keen to, I guess, get her identity back after feeling like she'd lost that being a mum and
yep.
looking after the kids and doing an amazing job. So I said, I'm happy to be Mr. Mum, and you go back and work, and I'm happy to take some time out and hang out with the kids.
Awesome.
So that was the plan in 2013.
And that was moving back to Melbourne.
Moved back to Melbourne.
Yep.
2013, I was Mr. Mum, and then halfway through the year, I started up a gym.
Yeah.
Which is a 24-hour gym.
Is this the one you've still got?
Yeah, well, my wife runs it, yes.
Yeah, right.
And so, yeah, I think I just knew intuitively that even though I wanted to spend more time with the kids, and I did, and I love it, I also love working, and I love working hard. And, like you, I have that entrepreneurial side, so I guess I kept having to scratch those itches.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still doing it at 52, man. So then you become a gym owner. Was it just like every other kind of Globo gym, or was there a point of difference with what you were doing in that original gym?
No, look, to be honest, it was a 24/7 gym. I just didn't want to buy a franchise. What I wanted to do was do it slightly differently. And it's hard to describe that because people just see 24-hour gym as a 24-hour gym.
Yeah.
Slight differences with selection of equipment based on my experiences with S&C.
Yeah.
More than anything, I just wanted to make it accessible for people. Gyms are intimidating places.
Yeah.
So I was really focused on making sure we got the branding right, we got the community right. We had a no dickhead policy. I had a guy who, because of our location, we get a lot of shift workers, and
yeah.
I remember having a guy who was doing some sort of Olympic lifting, but he was doing drop sets. And there was some ladies who'd finished working, I can't remember, at the hospital or the casino or something. You know, it's sort of 1 a.m. And
Yeah.
they wrote an email saying, you know, they were really intimidated. These guys throwing weights and dropping them on the floor, and they felt uncomfortable. And I got on the CCTV footage and reviewed it. Because the members swipe in and out, I was able to call this gentleman and have a conversation, and it was quite interesting. He was very aggressive didn't want to hear about the other members. It was all about him and his training. And he said, look, you wouldn't understand, mate. You know, this is elite strength and conditioning. And so I let him just go on his rant for a little bit.
Don't you know who I am?
And then I just said, look, I'm not disputing any of that. I'll give you, here's some of my background of what I've done in my life professionally. And I do understand what you're doing, but there's a way. You don't have to throw weights. You don't have to be intimidating. And we'd like you to respect the other people as well as the equipment.
Yeah.
So you've got two choices, you know, and you can change your behaviours, or
you can change your gym.
I'm happy to give you your money back, and you can change gyms. And he
Which
chose the latter.
Oh, he left.
Yeah, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. That's okay. But
I thought you were gonna. I was half thinking in my head as you're telling that story that you were gonna go, and now he's my best mate.
No, and that's okay. Like, there's gyms where you can go and do that.
Yeah.
What we want to make sure is that those ladies who are, you know, early 50s or mid 50s who are shift workers who are making a sacrifice at 1 a.m. to go and look after their health, feel comfortable at 1 a.m. in a gym, and that's more important to me.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of the subtle differences that we did. We kept a really close eye on those behaviours in the gym. We were really strict on hygiene and putting your weights away and showing respect.
Which was a point of difference to what most of the other gyms were doing at the time, I'm guessing?
Yeah, and I think to an element to what they do today, to be honest. As I said, gyms are intimidating, and it only takes one or two people.
To be honest, man, I hate gyms. Hate them.
I just think, you know, like, if I think to what I like about in a gym, and I've been in the industry all my life, or most of my life, and I feel intimidated going into gyms.
Yeah.
What I don't like is when people are disrespectful. What I don't like is when people leave their weights on the floor and they think it's for someone else to pick up.
Yeah.
So for me, it was build a gym where I feel comfortable to train, much like I did in the UK.
So it was nearly scratching your own itch sort of thing.
Yeah, that turned out well in the UK, where I chose a gym where I felt comfortable to train.
Yep.
And funnily enough, you know, Ian, the owner, was very strict on making sure members showed respect. They kept the place clean. They used their wipes or towels, or you know, they put equipment away. People were courteous.
Yeah.
It's all basic value stuff.
Man, it's community, right?
But if you can do that, I think you're opening up a wider audience who want to pay to be a member.
Yeah. And probably even pay a premium versus the Globo gym, you know.
Yeah, we don't charge a premium, but what we understand that a 24-hour gym's low service, low cost.
Yeah.
But we still want to maintain and build a sense of community and respect in a low service gym.
Yeah, right.
I think it's hard to explain exactly how we did that, but that's what we did, and that's what we still do today, and that's what's been successful for us.
And was it during running that business that you got the idea for BFT?
Yeah, well, what I thought.
Or did you always have did you have the idea in the back of your head prior to that one even?
No, well, I started thinking about expanding that brand.
Right.
And at the time, given it was a startup business, banks, and I'd leveraged everything.
Yes,
banks wouldn't give me any more money until we had a little bit more history with our financials, despite the business going well. And I'd had some sort of, I guess, maybe grand plans to do a little bit more S&C and build some of that into the model.
Yep.
And I learnt really quickly that wasn't the environment for it. And I won't say they're simple businesses to run, but you can automate a lot of those businesses.
Yeah, right.
I put a manager in, I trained the manager, got them to a place where I sort of made myself redundant.
And that freed you up the time to then explore.
Yeah, and I went, I can't sit still. I can't. I'm going to go stir crazy. And I'd had some phone calls from some sporting teams seeking interest to get back involved in S&C. But I really made that commitment to not go back for family reasons.
Yes, yeah.
And I really, funnily enough, there's a strong pull to go back. I think it's a little bit, you know that environment, it's a bit safe.
Yeah, there's a bit of comfort in that as well.
And there's a paycheck.
Yeah. Yes.
But I just thought, no, here's my opportunity. I've got to go and explore how can I utilise my skills from high performance environments and S&C to maybe build a business. And I had no idea.
And make that accessible to non-athletes.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Like something to scale. How could I do that? And that was 2014, I think, late 2014. So 2015 was a year of research for me.
Yep.
Reaching out to equipment suppliers, because I hadn't been in that real consumer retail space. So it's so different from elite sport. So I was like, okay, what's going on out there? Who are the brands? What are people doing? What's trending? What do I like? What don't I like? And how am I going to utilise my skill set if I can find an opportunity? And I spent 2015 doing that.
Yep.
And it just became, whether it was obvious or not, it became obvious to me.
Yep.
That there was a real gap in programming and a real gap in education. You know, you don't do anything with athletes on a whim or because it's my opinion. It's
all research backed.
Research, it's validated. We've got so much data, we make informed decisions, and we certainly do some things that aren't fully science-backed. There might be more mental, psychological.
And if it's a new thing that you've thought of that no one's had a crack at before, you kind of got to find your guinea pig, right?
Yeah, but there's a methodology to it,
Yeah.
and there's a robustness to it, and you also have an ability to go, no, well, I've seen enough and it's not going to work, and pull back. You can't do that. You can't get 5 years into the business and go, oh, we've got it wrong.
Nah.
You're going to lose in a big way. So
2015, just as an aside, was that one of the best years of your life, doing the research to get everything to what BFT is now? Do you get into that? Because for me, I'm just asking as a scratch my own itch question. So with Ruck, like it's live now, I want to give it to someone else to run. I want to jump onto the next thing that I can develop. And so for me, that year where I was taking a sabbatical, getting the samples in, testing them, like that R&D to see if you've got product market fit, the sampling to make sure that you've got a product fit for purpose. Like I just get off on that stuff.
yeah, that was probably 2016, 17.
Oh, okay.
2015 was learning because I didn't know the marketplace.
Ah, right.
And I didn't know what people, so for me, when I say research, it started with, well, what are the brands out there? What are people doing?
Yeah.
And then trying to understand. So Orange Theory, as an example, wasn't in Australia, but it was huge in America.
And then you're like, why?
And why? What are they doing?
Yeah.
And then they're selling this Orange Theory, which is about the epoch effect, which for people is post-exercise oxygen consumption. And so then I'm looking at their model, and then I'm looking at the science and going, well, their training model actually doesn't give you the epoch effect.
But it's a good buzzword.
But it's a great
marketing
tool, right? So I'm starting to look at, okay, the industry's, what I've found broadly, and Orange Theory, by the way, is a very, very good brand. I love the way they do their training and customer service. I think they're excellent at it. So it's not they were just one of the brands, not a dig at them. They're a phenomenal brand.
Yeah.
But what I learnt was the industry's so uneducated, the consumers are so uneducated, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you don't get to be in high performance with a certification for 6 months or 12 months.
Yeah.
Right, you've got to have degrees. Most of the time you've got to have postgraduate degrees, and most of the time you've got to have a lot of experience, you know. And like I said, I'd worked in soccer a long time, done a lot of stuff in exercise rehabilitation. I spent 3 years knocking on a door to get an opportunity at Geelong.
Yeah.
And so I would never have got it with just a degree.
Yeah.
And
just a cert. Yeah, here you go.
And then you still got to do a lot of hard work, right? It's like an endless journey, and I think you've got to be cognizant of that. Whereas I think the industry, the retail space was, everyone's an expert, and there's a lot of snake oil. So when you say, was I enjoying myself in 2015? I wasn't. I was like, my God, this is a fucking nightmare.
You wanted to do a documentary on the horrors of the gym business.
Oh, everyone's selling a magic water or a magic lotion or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what about just really basic, back to fundamentals, periodised training? Like, that'd be a good start. So,
And no one was doing that at the time?
No one was doing it. So I guess the easy way to explain it, you had your Orange Series and F45s and Barry's and Soul Cycles, all these sorts of things. They're all playing down in that aerobic space.
Yeah.
And then the opposite end of the spectrum was CrossFit,
which we discussed was way too complicated and
extreme, right? Again, good brand, did a lot of awesome stuff, especially exposing people and women in particular to strength training. I love. but a lot of injuries.
Yes.
But phenomenal in terms of where they started out and what they achieved.
Yeah, and a good focus on strength, which probably back then wasn't a hot topic, but now is like the be all and end all, right?
Yeah, and I loved it. And they did probably just lost their way. They licensed, they grew really quickly. And through a license model, you don't have that control like you do maybe through a franchise.
Yeah.
So lots of learning. So I'm looking at it going, okay, well, there's just got to be an opportunity here to maybe do some, and this is just my view, better programming, bring some of that methodology and thinking from elite sport and just make it accessible to the everyday weekend warrior. And that was the essence of it. I'm like, okay, here's my opportunity. I can actually, this is right in my wheelhouse. You know, we can do strength training, we can do cardiovascular training.
Yeah.
We can do aerobic, anaerobic, glycolytic. We don't have to sell it like that, but we can do all these things. And just make that thinking and make that methodology and that process that you afford to an elite athlete accessible to the everyday weekend warrior.
Yeah, right.
And people were telling me early days, no one's going to do strength training in a group training environment and have a 3 or 4 minute rest period. People are going to get bored. I'm like, okay, but what I know is it works.
Yeah.
And you can't dispute that it works.
No, and I guess too, people saying that no one will do it is because they didn't really have the choice to do it, right? If there was nothing in the market that allowed them to train like that, well then of course no one's doing it.
Correct.
And so you were creating within a bigger category, which is fitness and gyms, you were almost creating like it's your own subcategory in that bigger overarching category.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people's sense of, which is flattering, have kind of led with a lot of our vernacular, whether it's the periodisation or whether it's, you know, strength-based or S&C based or whatever. I challenge that, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I think it's a good thing. It's like being in sport. You get challenged every week by your competitors. Yeah. Because that's what makes you better, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I challenge it that some people are doing it, some aren't, and I think there's a lot of CrossFit hybrid gyms around.
Yes.
Kind of CrossFit rip-offs.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But getting people in a room and just smashing them, that's easy.
Yeah. And you might get some short-term gains, but I'll guarantee you it ends up in long-term injury.
Yeah, and we're really proud. We've been going for 8 years, you know, since the very first site in 2016, and we don't have injuries, we don't have common sorenesses, you know, knees, backs, whatever.
You don't have physio.
And that's because of how we design our program. It's because of the periodisation. It's because of the rigour and consideration that goes into it. Yep. You know, we have a team of fantastic conditioning coaches that work together, physically write, test, rewrite, retest the programs before they get to a location, and I challenge that not many businesses are doing that in our space.
Yeah, right. Are you still hands-on with doing some of that yourself?
No, more the team check in on me. They just, if they've got issues or maybe things that they're stuck on, they'll just...
Yeah.
But we have a very set system.
So they kind of know. They know
the system, and each program's got a very specific mandate to it in terms of the why. Yep. So therefore, as a result, they know what they can and can't do. I'll go this way. So they you know, there's flexibility within that. They use their own creative programming skills.
But and do you tend to employ S&C guys for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
People with experience, people who've worked with athletes, people understand that, because you know, I'll challenge it. I don't think a lot of people in the industry really do understand it.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who talk that they do.
Yeah. Just jump on Instagram.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think we're getting better as an industry, and I think we've still got a long way to go, but consumers are just getting smarter now.
Yeah.
You know, consumers are there's a lot more available information, great information through wearable tech these days, you know, like Whoop's just, I think, a fantastic platform. And
I was going to ask you about wearables.
There's just such good information even on their app around what actually is training strain.
Yeah. Because that goes back to your, you know, the way that you guys do your programming is that there's no point throwing someone who's at a massive day strain that is likely to be injured if they do something that's boom boom and throwing them in that situation. And that's where Whoop, I think, has set itself apart from all the other wearables, be it Apple, be it Garmin, is that there is a real focus on listening to your body when you need to rest and recover.
Yeah, and I think I won't profess to know all the wearables, by the way, but I have spent a bit of time trying to understand Whoop. I like that the intellectual side of how their AI works. It gets to know you as an individual.
Yeah.
I've worn other platforms where, say, I've been doing 500 Ks a week on a bike, and it's day 3. It's like you got to rest 24 hours, but then I go and train the next day, and I'm putting out the same wattage. My heart rate's very similar. My variability is not too indifferent.
Yeah.
Now you got to rest, 48 hours, and I go and train again, do another 100 Ks.
And it just keeps stacking
and it keeps stacking it.
Yeah.
And from a performance perspective, there's no drop off for me.
Nah.
And so they're good. And I've talked about, I wear Whoop, and I've worn other platforms as well. I use Strava. They've got a place, but they're not the panacea.
No.
So that's the opportunity for our industry, is to use the technology to help monitor, but get to know the individual.
And do you guys do anything with wearables within BFT?
Yeah, we've built our own heart rate system. Because of that, we wanted it to be specific. We've been able to gamify and have metrics.
And that's using chest strap?
Chest strap, because it's the most accurate.
Yep.
But specific to the outcome of each individual session that we do. So our gamification and our reward system from a points perspective is different to doing a strength session to what it is to do a cardio aerobic session to what it is to doing a cardio anaerobic session.
Yeah.
Because there's different outcomes.
And everybody that does a BFT session straps up?
Yep.
And is there a display that you can see your heart rate?
Display, it's all color coded.
I had to come and do one. I should have done that today.
Because we test the programs, we have a target point system that you should get for that class.
Yep.
You get a gold, silver, bronze medal, and what it does is, for example, say, well, okay, Adam hasn't got he didn't medal today. Well, great, let's have the conversation around that and have a look at his training, and maybe Adam's just new to the system, actually hasn't done much strength training. Awesome, here's the opportunity, right? Let's talk to you about that and talk about where your opportunity is to progress and grow over the next training cycle.
Yep.
And just get familiar with the training, the movements, learn and watch how your heart rate responds to different loads.
Yep.
And then the more you are in tune with that, the more you're likely to make informed decisions. And then all of a sudden, Adam's on the leaderboard and he's getting a gold medal and he's feeling pretty good about his training. As a result of it, you're getting stronger or fitter, depending on what or hopefully both.
What your goal is, yeah.
A lot of gyms and group training is go as hard as you can, plateau,
and then
die.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that's
that churn and burn kind of philosophy, isn't it?
Again, nothing wrong with it, but you're not going to get long-term sustained results, and fitness is a journey.
Yeah.
It's a big journey, and our responsibility is to take people on that journey and hopefully engage them for a lifelong journey.
And obviously you're doing it well, because let's speak to a little bit about BFT's, like where it started, where it is now. So you launched your first BFT.
First site in 2016, did 4 test sites. 2018 April we launched franchising.
Yep. And did you bootstrap this yourself, or did you bring in investors?
Bootstrap for the first 2.5 years.
Yep.
And then
which was the first 4 studios you bootstrapped yourself?
Yeah, and then building the technology and the software. And, and then 2017 had 2 investors, Rich and Hamish, come on board. Rich Burnett works in the business with me. He had a really strong, corporate background, but predominantly he's a gun in sales. So that's what we needed. And Hamish is a silent investor, but adds a really good strategic lens to the business when we need him.
And did you always plan to be the franchise model?
Yeah. That was always the goal. I guess I had some good advice from a family friend who was one of the co-founders of a business called Sportscope, which you may remember, chain of sports stores, which Des just gave me some really good advice and said, get your hands dirty, make lots of mistakes, spend your own money, get the model right,
and then
franchise it. And it was a really good advice, because you can look franchisees in the eye and say, well, I've actually been where you are. I've done it, and I've spent my own money. I've made the mistakes, and
You're learning from one that
and
you're basically
learning, you're the beneficiary of
Which
it.
is why people want to buy a franchise, right? They might not necessarily be entrepreneurs. They want a turnkey system and something that, if they love your story, they're going to love the franchise.
Yeah, and I think franchising gets a bad rap, and I think some of it's warranted, and there's a lot of franchises that maybe off the back of one location go, you know what, why not just franchise this?
Yeah.
And hopefully they're successful, but I just don't think you learn enough or make enough mistakes.
Yeah.
Off one site, you've got to test in different demographics, locations.
And I think too, like the reason franchises got a bad name is because it did get hot at one point, and then everyone was looking for the next big franchise idea that you knew that was going to be bankrupt within 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, and you know, your obligation as a franchisor is to make sure your franchise is successful.
Yeah, that's right.
And by making them successful, you've got to make sure that the customer, which now our business is the members,
Yeah.
are getting a great experience. They're getting absolute value for their money. They're feeling a part of a really strong community, and that we are equipping the franchisees to be able to deliver that. And,
Yeah, right.
And it's ever evolving, and you know, whilst the core business hasn't changed much since 2016, to be really honest, the tech hasn't changed that much. There's a lot more sophistication in the back end now.
And there's a whole lot more studios, right?
Yeah, we've got we're just on 300 open, 700 sold globally. We're in 10 different countries.
So explain to me the difference. So you sell a territory. So someone kind of puts their stake in the ground to say, I want to run a BFT
we
there.
have a specific set of metrics that determine the territory.
Yep.
The reason...
And that's the 700, so there's 700 territories sold, and then there's a process of finding the right location.
Real estate.
Yep. All that sort of stuff. And do you help them through the real estate process as well?
We have real estate support and also internal and external.
Yeah, because that's a big key driver to the success of a BFT, right, is its location, size.
Yeah, we have specific measurements. We don't compromise on floor space. You know, it's a big difference between us and a lot of other franchises that might take smaller or larger spaces. We have a minimum footprint that we know, one, our system works, two, it works safely with Olympic lifting and kettlebells and other things, and three, it allows us a space to be able to then innovate if we want to add things to it going forward. So,
okay. Oh, that's exciting. And now you've expanded outside of Australia. You did a deal with Exponential in the US. So
Exponential own the IP now, and they run the brand in North America.
Yep.
We run the brand everywhere outside of North America,
Yep.
so we're currently operating through a few Asian countries. We're very strong in Singapore.
And outside of, say, is it South Central North America that Exponential's got?
Just North America.
Oh, okay. And then you're still hands-on with everything else?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Where do you see the brand heading, like in the next 5 to 10?
Oh, look, I said, we've still got a lot of growth left. You know, when you take out a couple of years of COVID, we're still very much in our infancy and learning. We've got a really strong footprint. We've got really strong AUVs across our sites. Got some challenges with some franchises like most businesses
Especially now with the squeeze, you know.
Yeah,
the government's done a great job of slowing spending.
It's a good opportunity for us because you learn, you know, through the hard times you learn your lessons.
Oh, and anybody can make a successful business in the world's biggest bubble.
Yeah, so we're really diving into that as a business.
Yeah.
Looking at key people to hire to put in the right seats, and then our opportunity is to not lose focus on the regions that we run and support successfully now.
Yep.
We're having some really good conversations with some countries that are non-English speaking, have some, you know, cultural challenges and nuances. We're looking at putting some MFAs in place, and we're continuing to work with Exponential on the innovation side of things, and, you know, continue to develop the IP to keep us at the forefront.
So the Exponential deal, like everyone would have seen the numbers involved with that and gone, oh my God. But it's a bit more complicated than that when you do licensing deals. And like, is there still a lot of KPIs for what your team in Australia has to do to help them deliver throughout North America, or?
It's not so much KPIs, but you know, like I said, if our franchisees aren't growing, if the members aren't happy, we don't make money. So it's more just making sure we're true to the business, we're not taking our foot off the pedal. We're continuing to listen to the franchisees and members and keep the business healthy. Like, that's our obligation.
Yeah.
We've got lots of growth opportunities, but, you know, we want to grow, but we want to grow without getting a speeding ticket, so to speak.
Yeah,
you know,
for
it's
sure.
important that we don't
And bigger's not always better, right? You
Nah,
wanna do it right.
not at all. And as I said, the good fortune of having 300 sites is you learn a lot of lessons and you got a lot of data, and we can make informed decisions and also have some honest conversations internally. Say, look, we've got that wrong there, but we can plug it and we can fix it. Not just plug the gap or don't put a band-aid on it, but let's fix it.
Yeah.
And that's going to benefit us going forward. So,
Nice.
yeah, there's a level of sophistication we're getting in the business now with our data and people that we haven't had previously, and that's actually really, really exciting.
Yeah. And is there anything else outside of BFT that you've got cooking that you can share?
I always think of ideas.
Yep.
I've always got stuff that I want to do, but BFT's got to be my focus right now.
Yeah. Well, I reckon that's a good place to wrap, and I'll continue to try to get you to host a television show next year called Pre-Season.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've already drafted the script, and
Nice.
so have you, so we're on the same page there.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe watch this space.
All right, mate. Well, thanks a bunch
Good
for
to see
coming
you, buddy.
out.
Thank you. Thanks for the ruck.
No worries, mate. Talk soon.
All right, there's another Rucking Good episode in the books. Hopefully you liked it, and if you did, feel free to share it around and throw us a like and subscribe if you so wish to. If you would like to see or be a guest on Rucking Good, please drop me an email to team@rucksack.com. And until then, we'll catch you on another episode.